You're listening to RTI Audio, powered by Rocky Top Insider. This is Pancakes and Bacon with VFL, Kyler Kerbyson, and Reed Bacon.
Hello, Vol Nation. Welcome to another episode of Pancakes and Bacon. I'm your host, as always, Kyler Kerbyson, joined with Reed Bacon. Got another good one for you. Vols coming off a loss to Georgia, which I think a lot of us expected, but didn't want it to turn out like this. So we're talking about offense. We're talking about defense. We're talking about expectations. We might even talk a little bit about what we're thankful for with Thanksgiving come up. But first, before we get into any of that, Reed, how we doing, bud?
I'm thankful for you, Kyler.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm thankful for Josh Huepel. Whoa. Whoa, some people might not like that.
I don't think everybody agrees with you.
Well, yeah. No, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. As you can see, it's basketball season now. So, big Rick Barnes guy here.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody's a big Rick Barnes guy in November. Rick Barnes is a big Rick Barnes guy in November.
Yeah, it's just when March rolls around, it's everybody starts getting off the bus.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, we're pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, we're pretty good this year.
Yeah, but we'll still lose to dang Colgate or somebody in the second round.
Yeah. Same old.
Yeah. No, I'm doing well though. I just think we start this bad boy off by saying, you're the former player.
Mm-hmm.
You had some rough times at Tennessee. You had some good times at Tennessee. You've been back to practice with Josh Huepel there 5-6 times. You've met him a couple times. What's your thoughts, man? What's your thoughts? And this is an instant reaction after the game, which I think you and I have gotten away from instant reaction because we know that we need to calm down and watch the tape. But yeah, so how do you feel about moving forward? How do you feel about Coach Hype?
I mean, I feel great. I feel great about Coach Huepel. I understand people's frustrations. I understand that we lost 4 games this year. But I think literally just talking about and rewatching this game and going through things and looking at stuff, in no way was I like, oh, yeah, Huepel let us down. Right? Like, none of the plays that didn't turn out in our favor or situations that didn't happen that we needed to, none of them was I like, oh, yeah, well, that was on Huepel. Like, that was the reason why that didn't work, because of Huepel. I have been a part of programs that lose a lot, that are used to losing, and that accept losing. This is not one of those programs. I've been a part of a team that's like, yeah, man, like you should see those Alabama defensive linemen, before we even play them. Just loser talk. That's all that is. Of like, yeah, you should see them. They're huge. They're fast. They're great. They're, that used to piss me off when I was young. But this is not that team. I mean, we can tell from practice this isn't that team. The confidence that they have in each other and in themselves, you can tell on the field when they're down 38-10 and guys are still fighting for extra yards. Like, you can tell that this team cares about what's going on, and I think Huepel is moving everything in the right direction. There is a expectations and where they're set that are having a lot of people get upset. And I don't know if people really set them to the appropriate level. Because going into this year, we knew this team was probably worse than last year's team. Like going into this year, going into the first game of the year, every Tennessee fan looking at this team would have said last year's team would have beat this team. Every single one of us would have been, I prefer Hendon over Joe. I prefer Jalen over Squirrel. I prefer Cedric over Brew. I prefer Brew over Chaz Nimrod. I prefer Darnell over Jeremiah. I prefer, freaking
Jerome
over Carrick. I prefer everybody we lost over everybody that we had coming back. And I thought the exact same way. We talked about the year as, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. Like you were saying, we could lose this Texas A&M game. I was like, we could lose this Kentucky game. We said that before the year started. We could lose these games. And you know what? We ended up losing the Florida and the Missouri instead. People said that we could lose the South Carolina game again. We didn't. It's just, I don't understand where everyone thought this is an SEC championship team, because I don't remember hearing that before the season started. I remember hearing that was goals, that's what guys on the team were shooting for, but I don't remember anybody going, hey, this team's going to be in the SEC championship. Hey, this team's going to be the number one team in the East. I don't remember that. Everybody was like, yeah, number two. Yeah, number two. What happens? Missouri has a really, 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 really good year. I mean, that team is 1,000 times better than they were last year. So I don't know. We'll get into it. I mean, there's plays during the game, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, like if it was Hendon to Cedric, that would have been first down. There's plays in the game where I'm like, yeah, if that was Banks covering that guy, he would have made a tackle. It's just, there's multiple times I'm sitting there going, yeah, another guy would have made a difference if we had another guy in there.
But overall, you were very happy. You're still happy with Huepel and where we're going.
Still happy with Huepel, where we're going, what he's been able to do. I mean, you won 11 games a year and a half after 30 plus people left your team. That's pretty impressive. And that was through the transfer portal. That was through recruiting. He is stacking on another good class. He is finding guys that fit his system well. And we have the best quarterback prospect we've ever had sitting, just waiting for his opportunity. What? Like, why would I think that this guy's doing a bad job?
I took some time to, as I was rewatching and reflecting and thinking, and it's just the nature of the beast in college sports where these coaches do so well for a year or two, or for 3 or 4 years, or for whatever the span may be. And that becomes the expectations, and fan is always short for fanatic. I will always remind people of that. And it's fine to get a little upset and get a little frustrated. We love our teams, but I'm not going to be able to put up with what I think in my mind is just nonsense. Like I said, I love having conversations with people and hearing, and I don't have to agree with, you and I have plenty of conversations where we don't agree, but I still am like, yeah, I see where he's coming from on that. Mm-hmm. I will not sit there and have conversations when someone says something. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're just radical. Like you're like,
hey, sorry, I got to take a call. Just get a second.
Yeah, exactly. So, Tyler from Spartanburg was really, really upset with Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney turned Clemson into being completely irrelevant to winning national championships. Whether I like Dabo or think he's super great or not,
he's the only reason Clemson is a name.
Exactly. And then you got Nick Saban, who they win, a kajillion championships, and they win one every year, every other year. And then the year that they win 10 games and don't make it, everyone's like, well, and they get a little frustrated. It's like,
Listen, there were chats because we beat them last year. Tennessee Vol fans were loving it. We're eating it up. So I saw it all over my Twitter of Vol fans retweeting of guys, Alabama fans in their little blogs and things going like, I think Nick Saban has lost his touch. Like, he's not the same Nick Saban anymore. They're going to the SEC championship this year. Like, slow your damn roll, bud.
People are just funny, man. People are funny. And the stuff that I've heard and seen is, we've talked about it a little bit, but we miss Golish. Maybe they've caught up to our offense. Maybe, I don't trust Huepel because he's not playing Nico, he's playing Joe, and whatever the case may be. And then it's the same players that, helped us beat, not all of them, but some of the same players that helped us go 11 wins, or some of the same players that helped beat Clemson in the Orange Bowl, and we're talking about how incredible they are, and then we're like, yeah, these guys, then other people are like, yeah, he sucks, or oh, he's from Georgia, but Georgia didn't recruit him because they're so good, just like all this back and forth. And it's gotten to me now where I just kind of smile at it and keep it moving. And I thought we would go 10-2 this year, and it's all because of how much I trusted Coach Huepel. I think Huepel is a really, really good coach. I've mentioned it. I think he's awesome on game day and game planning and all that stuff. I think he's one of the best in the world at doing that. I think he's good at producing, and I would say good to above average to really good for culture building. Yeah. And as I've said it, the only thing he has to do is to continue to build and get in good recruits. So there's other coaches that can be a really, really good just CEO, whether it's a Brian Kelly or Dabo or Nick Saban, who's not calling offense, not calling defense, but they're really good at getting really good players. They're really good at setting a culture, and they're really good at hiring their coordinators and their coaches, and then putting their fingerprints on, hey, I might not be making the play calls, but let's start dialing up some heat here. Let's lay back to this guy. Or, hey, Lane, quit throwing it so much. This is Alabama. I want to pound the rock. Just little stuff like that. So I take myself back, and I think to when you and I first went to practice, and then how horrendous it was. And then it got a little bit better when we went back a few months later from spring to fall, getting ready for a season. I'm like, okay, we got a little bit more to work here. And then, we win 7 games that year, but you probably should win the Purdue game. If you don't get screwed over, you're a couple plays away from whether it's beating Pitt or maybe beating Ole Miss. So we all saw like, hey, this is fun, man. Like, he's good. He's good at what he does. And then he just absolutely blows expectations out of the water. And he just absolutely dials it up. And he has the offense clicking. He's got the defense playing good enough. And even when everyone wanted to talk about how bad the defense was last year with the secondary and giving up all these yards, they were still good enough to help the offense. They did enough to win 10 games and to beat Alabama and to beat Florida and all those different things. So I just want people just to take a breath, relax. The guy who you thought was a really good coach less than 12 months ago, he didn't forget how to coach. He didn't forget how to coach. He
is the most experienced he's ever been in his life, guys.
He hasn't been here long enough, like a Philip Fulmer or like one of these other ones, to sit there and be like, hey, is the game caught up with him? Hey, is what is there to see? I thought he was good his first year. I thought he was great his second year. And I personally, like I said, I thought we'd go 10-2 because I just really, really trusted him. I quickly realized, hey, some of the young guys that I expected a decent amount from that I thought that they would replace, they haven't yet, and that's okay. That doesn't mean they won't. Joe was what I thought. I said, I don't know what to expect. Some days we'll get Orange Bowl Joe. Some days we'll get really, really bad quarterback play. And unfortunately, it's happened. And, so defensively, one of the things that I was thinking about is, I like one of my favorite local radios was when Josh Ward and Will West were together for Sports 180. Now they're split up, but I heard Will West, and he was on there with the other guy, and they were talking in the summer, and I tried to call in because they were talking about, and in no way am I a Jeremy Banks like apologist or defender, no way. Yeah. But I watched every snap he had for the past 2 years, and I thought he was a very, very good quality middle linebacker in the SEC. And I heard Will just all season like, we're going to be better at linebacker, we're going to be better at linebacker, we're going to be this, and losing Jeremy Banks isn't that big of a deal. And then they're like, we got Keenan Pili coming in. And I get it. Keenan Pili/Pili, he missed season. I would have liked to have had him. But guess what? We still don't know how good he would have been. It was Virginia in the very first play. So you can't come here to me and be like, oh, well, we really miss him. Like, we really miss him just because he's another option to see how good. He's a body, bro, but we don't know if he's going to be that good. So it's just like, you just think like the players that they did lose were very, very big pieces. And the most important for us is offense and defensive line and quarterback. Those are the most important positions. And so I'm going to table this because I'm going to have a Bacon Blitz when the season's over. And if people are still panicking about Huepel, I'm going to really dive into some stuff and say, hey, everybody pump the brakes. Let's give him 4 years. Now, if we're sitting in the same spot next year and we've had some of the woes that we've had where it's 7 points a game or 10 points a game, I'm like, whoa, he's supposed to be the offensive guy. What are we doing here? But I will never forget what he inherited and what he took over. And we cannot fault him and think that he is bad because of his own success.
Yeah.
And his success of last year. And so let me kind of dive off of that and to go. I just did some quick homework. I had a work call today, Zoom call today, and while I was on it, I said, I'm going to look at Georgia stats from the game, and I'm going to just see what those recruits were. I didn't go down their offensive line or their defensive line. I literally just went, Carson Beck, 4-star, their 2 leading running backs, 4-star and 4-star. One was a number 6 running back. One was like a 20th. One was number 6 in the nation. One was like top 20 in the nation, but they're both seniors. Then you go to their receivers, and their receivers were a 4-star, a 3-star, and then Brock Bowers, which is some said he was a 4-star, but he's a 4/5-star, but he was a top 5 tight end nationally. And he's a junior. And it's like, okay, so those are their offensive guys. Those were the 2 leading running backs and the 3 most receivers. So I'm like, okay. And then you go to defensively. Well, defensively, it was 3 and 4. He was a 3, Tyke Smith or whatever his name was. He's a 3/4-star, but he's a senior. Javon Ballard, 3/4-star, but he's a senior. Jordan Hall, 5-star. He was a top 5 national player, and he's a freshman. So that's that dog freshman with some of that senior leadership, veteran leadership. Then you got another guy, 5-star, top 5 nationally as a junior. Then you got another guy. He's a 4 and 5-star guy. He's top 10 nationally. And that was their number 1. That was their 5 leading tacklers type guys.
Yeah.
Now, I did not spend time to say, I'm going to look at their entire D-line and their entire O-line. I know their D-line's probably highly ranked, and I would assume their offensive line is extremely highly ranked.
Yeah.
Not because they're Georgia, but because what I watched them do, I was thoroughly impressed. So it's just Kirby's been there a while. Kirby took over a nice situation compared to the dumpster fire.
Beautiful situation. Mark Richt was winning 10 games a year.
Yeah. He just couldn't get him over the hump. He just couldn't get him over the hump. And Kirby's come in and kicked the door. And I want to give credit. Like, I have some mixed emotions about how I feel about Kirby and his success, but I will not deny the fact that his teams, they execute, they play hard, they are fundamentally sound, they get punched in the mouth early, they don't freak out, they settle in, and they just say, hey, this is just ball. And he knows how to get those guys ticked, man. I mean, you hear him sometimes, and he'll light that fire under him and say, "This is who we are. Let's go hunt." Like, I mean, and so I'll respect him. He's got that thing cooking, and Georgia's really, really good.
Yeah.
Just you got to give Coach Huepel some time.
Yeah.
And you can't be freaking out about everyone. I'm not saying that he can't make adjustments to his staff where it needs to be, but it's not one game or 2 games in a row. It's like, oh, fire all of them. He needs to bring in a whole new staff.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's when you break down the film, and what we're going to be talking about is the guys that we have out there and the guys and what they're doing and what they're not doing, to kind of give a reason for what's going on. And a head coach is so holistic over the entire program that people go, okay, well, he's calling the plays. And then you say, well, the players aren't executing the plays that he's calling. And then everyone will go, well, then he needs to get players in. And I'm like, guys, he's trying.
Yeah.
30 people left. No one wanted to be here. Okay. Every recruit that wanted to be in the SEC wasn't picking Tennessee when Josh Huepel got there. Okay. He has been able to win games and show Tennessee can be one of those programs. And now guys are buying in. Now those recruiting classes are coming up. Now transfer portal guys on offense especially are like, I like that team over there. They throw the ball a lot. They run the ball a lot. They do a lot of offensive explosive things. I really like that. So that is where I am. Like, you can't blame this man for not bringing in the right people. You can't blame him for bad play calling. You can't say that all of his coaching staff needs to be fired and he doesn't know when to fire the coaching staff. There's nothing that really has merit to say Josh Huepel is not doing a good job.
Yeah.
There's just nothing there.
The only thing that you guys should hope that he does is that we can land some big-time recruits, and whether that's him and the other coaches, and whether that's our staffers, whether that's the NIL stuff. I mean, that is a whole. That is everything as a whole. And yeah, it doesn't look great to get smacked at home on a Saturday on your biggest recruiting weekend. I mean, yeah, it was a bummer going into this year. Not just Tennessee fans, not just Georgia fans, but nationally, everyone's like, that Tennessee-Georgia game in November is going to be the biggest game of the year, because we really thought that our only loss would be probably Alabama. Alabama, maybe one other loss. And then we would have thought that, hey, we might not beat Georgia, but we're probably going to be able to fight them for 4 quarters, which unfortunately didn't happen. And there is something to say about, like, if your team's decimated with injuries and you didn't have that much depth anyways, like, it is what it is. You can say it's excuse. It's not excuse. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. Tennessee got really, really fortunate last year with being pretty darn healthy.
Yeah.
And this year it hasn't been that way.
Yeah. And then, like, we talk about culture and building a culture. I wanted to think back to, like, how many more VFLs have you seen at games? How many more, Tennessee fans have you seen coming out of the woodworks, coming back, staying on the sidelines? How massive has Spire gotten, the NIL, from last year to this year? We went to that tailgate together. We went to Florida last year, and then we went to South Carolina this year, and it was 8 times the size, like 10 times the size. It has exploded. So those are all things because of what Josh Huepel has brought to Tennessee. So don't be negative. Don't tell me that he's not doing a good job, because all I see is positives. It's
a win and loss business. It really is.
It
is. So I'm not saying not, but if you're putting everything in to the scoreboard, I feel bad for you, because you have to have some context to things.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have some context things. And yeah, I don't want to lose to Georgia, but I understand the situations at hand. Now, do I wish that we could have kept it closer? Yeah, absolutely. But I also don't want to be a bunch of idiots that has a bunch of negative impact, so that it does hurt recruits coming in, or it does, like, Huepel gets a call somewhere else, and he's like, you know what, maybe I should think about it. Because that's just me personally. That's me personally. I think he's a really, really, really good coach, and I'm really excited for him to be here. And I think it's for where we were. I think you got to give the guy a legit 4 years, if not 5. And now if we're sitting here next year, Kyler, and for whatever reason Nico's not as good, and we've looked a little rough in some spots, then yeah, I might be starting to get a little concerned. But that's me starting to get a little concerned, not like fire him.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so, this will kind of jump us into talking about stuff.
Yeah.
I still truly think that if you have good quarterback play and you have quarterback play, I'm not going to say what we had last year, because last year we had really, really good quarterback play. But if you have what you had last year or just good quarterback play, I think some of these games look a lot different, even with some of the injuries, even with some of the different players on the outside, even with some of the offensive line, even with, don't get triggered, the defense. Is it fair to me to say that everyone wants to talk about how bad the defense was and how garbage they were? Once again, this 2 weeks in a row, I'm saying I think the defense probably did enough to keep us in the game or to help us win the game.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say so. Too.
Yeah, I definitely think that. Because, you look at like the first half, 24-10 is how it ended. You can't tell me that if we sustain just a couple more first downs, like not just don't 3 and out, that they score less than 24 points.
Well, Kyler, let me
it's just like the offense is absolutely killing the defense. They're out there 3 plays and they're punting it back to one of the best offenses out there. Like, they convert more third downs than anyone in the nation. And our defense is out there for 10 plays, for 9 plays, for 12 plays, and our offense has had 6. It's like, guys, come on.
And people want Tim Banks fired when he's out there doing the best he can. I mean, we got walk-ons playing.
Yeah.
We have a walk-on trying to guard Brock Bowers in man-to-man coverage. Like, if that's who they think's the best option, then that's what they're trying to make work and call defensive plays. But last year when we beat Alabama scored, I guess, 42 points. Well, they had the strip sack.
Oh yeah.
So they scored 42 points, and then we went to LSU, who was the SEC West champion, and absolutely boat raced them and held them to.
Can't win on the road though. Huepel can't win on the road though.
Hold on. And it's like we held them to, I don't know what, like 10 11,
14 something.
Yeah, maybe 20. Maybe they added one late. And then the absolute domination on our defense did against Kentucky. And when Kentucky came here, whether they had a bunch of injuries, whether they weren't that good at the time, like, this defense has put up some really nice performances. But Josh Huepel scores a lot of points, and that is where we won games, because we would jump up on these teams, and then they are doing everything they can to try to claw and fight back. And
you affect the way that they play offense.
And it affects the way that we play defense. And so it's like, it's a team game, but Huepel scoring 7 last week and 10 this week. If we're executing and just putting up our normal 30, which normal 30 for Huepel, 30 or 40, we're throwing up 50 burgers. Like, yeah, just you just can't be fire Tim Banks. They suck. You got to get winner. I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's you got to look at it, man. You got to look at it in the whole picture in the whole time they've been here.
You got to turn on the clicker. You got to watch the film. You got to look at it. Okay, let's talk about offense. Before I say anything about offense, one thing I do want to shout out, and it was one of my talking points of like, here's ways that we could beat Georgia if it goes right, if we mitigate our penalties, and if we do not turn the ball over, which 2 things we did. We only had 3 penalties for 20 yards, and we did not turn the ball over. And it's like, okay, great. We did those things. But every other thing on offense, we did not do. We could not convert on third down. We could not win our one-on-one matchups. We were getting our asses beat. We could not catch the ball when it got thrown to us. We could not complete when our guy was open. So I can't sit there and go, Huepel, what a horrible play call. How dare you call that play where Scroll's freaking wide open for a 40-yard gain at least, and Joe Milton overthrows it? How dare you call that play where Squirrel runs a dig and Joe throws it a little bit high and Squirrel drops it?
Let me say something.
How dare you run that play?
Let me say one thing. Ultimately, it is the head coach's responsibility to win games. And two, if someone else is on the other side there and saying, hey, guys, you keep talking about how awesome he is because how he dials plays up and does all this and they don't execute. It's his job that they make sure to execute. And if they don't, to get other players in that can.
Yeah.
We understand that, and we will call him on that. We personally just don't think that year 3 is in that.
There are other players.
What's that?
There are other players. I don't think that there are other players to throw in there.
And I heard, and a buddy of mine made a good point, and I've thought about this. Like, it's a bummer. It's kind of what I said about Pruitt. Like, Pruitt shouldn't have gone into the season with JG as his quarterback. I wish he wouldn't have gone in the season with Joe, but we're not seeing how good Joe looked at practice. I mean, you and I have been to practice, and he looked fine. He looked good. And then how he looked against Orange Bowl Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that these coaches sometimes have a little bit of that, like, I can get him to change. I can get him. But, hindsight.
You also have to lose the job, too. Like
hindsight, right. In hindsight 2020, it's like Huepel's probably like, damn it, I wish I did go get a portal guy, or I wish I brought this in. Or they did try to go get another portal quarterback, and they didn't think they couldn't get him, or there wasn't someone that they thought was better.
Because you try and go get a portal quarterback. What's that portal quarterback think? You just had your potential starter throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in the bowl game. Like, I'm probably not going to start. And then the backup is a 5-star freshman. Like, where do I fit in here? Why would I come to Tennessee? And that's where it was such a open book when Huepel first got there, because it was like, we're trying to win games. Whoever is the best will get the spot. And then the rest of you can leave if you want.
And I'm just playing the other side of it, so that if there's people that are listening or watching and they're saying, hey, but we get that. That is his ultimate responsibility, is to win games, get players in here that can execute his plays. I'm just saying, it's year 3 and we just won 11 games. I need another year and a half, 2 years before I'm like, okay, I've seen a big picture of him.
Big sample size.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Offensively. Good job, Jalen, on the first run. That was nice. It was good to see. This is a prime example of, if you're able to get guys just out of a position by a little bit, you can score a touchdown on any play. Like I said a couple weeks ago, on any play, you can score a touchdown. Just depends on how you execute the freaking play. Okay? Like, yeah, all those 5 stars and 4 stars you just mentioned, that first play, they were in the wrong spot, and it was a wide open touchdown. Jalen didn't get touched.
And it's nice to have a burner. So that's nice that we had a burner that could house call it and take advantage of our good execution, their bad execution.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It did crack me up, because you were saying, guys, when they design an inside zone or a counter or a power, they're not designing to go 3 yards. They're designing that if it does well, it house calls. So
yeah. And there you go. But after that, we have a lot of piss poor execution. We have the next drive, it's a no gain run. Then Joe throws it off a buddy's helmet, catches it himself, runs for 7 yards. We're 3rd and 3. We run it. We throw an out route to Squirrel with Castles blocking in front of him. Squirrel in open space with a defender, and he gets tackled. And it's a punt. And it's like, what was my thought process as a coach on this play? Oh, I'm going to get my quickest guy in open space versus one of their defenders with a blocker in front of them. Sounds like a good recipe to me.
Well,
and it turned out salty as hell.
It wasn't even a wide receiver block. And he said, let me get one of my tight ends trying to block.
Exactly. Well, an actual guy who practices blocking. Like, that's where I'm like, there's nowhere to go for Squirrel in that play.
I'm going to give Joe some credit that he made a nice individual effort after his bad individual effort / bad decision. If that throw doesn't bounce off the helmet, it's probably picked because that linebacker was absolutely screaming. So it's a bad decision. We got lucky. He caught it. He made a good individual effort to scramble out and make something out of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Next drive we get to 3rd and 3. Squirrel beats his guy on a whip route, and he's open, and ball gets tipped to the line. What was to be changed by Huepel there?
How does a 6'5" quarterback get so many balls? Like,
because he's trying to zip it in there, dude. There's not enough touch to where there's a little bit of air on it. It's a freaking laser beam.
Sharks with laser beams
attached to their freaking heads.
I'm not gonna act like we've had a bunch of tip balls all year, but I mean, he throws one that's a screen pass off a dude's noggin, and then the possession, and it might just be a good play by the Georgia guy. Like I said, I'm not gonna beat Joe up as if he's done it all year long. It just stinks. But let me say this: we had a disaster play of a first down. They bounced back really nice, a nice pull and blocked by Ollie, a really, really good individual run and make a guy miss by Jabari, and we get in a manageable 3rd down. Not only does he run a whip route, Kyler, he runs Squirrel out. Squirrel then comes back in as they call hike as Squirrel's moving. He runs, and then he hits the whip route. So it's not Squirrel standing still. He's trying to get Squirrel moving. He's like, I need to get my quickest and fastest player in space, but with an advantage. Instead of saying, I'm going to let Squirrel beat him by himself, let me see if I can do a little bit something here to have Squirrel moving. So it's little stuff like that. I'm like, dude, that is so awesome to see that.
Yeah. The first run, they motioned Jacob from an outside, like an inside slot position into the backfield, and that brought that linebacker just a hesitation, just a little bit on the backside, and got it to where Jeremiah could get up to block him, and he wasn't in on Jalen Wright's touchdown. He was not in on the play because Jeremiah was able to block. It just holds him for just a smidge, and then it's like, oh, now there's a lane. So it's little stuff like that gets installed into the offensive play call, that gets installed into the formation that we're doing. That's all coaching. Yeah. That's all that is, trying to set up plays for everybody.
Well, Kyler, go to the next possession, and we have a double pull to the right, and they hand off left. And I'm like, he had some shit up his sleeve, bro. He had stuff up his sleeve. The double pull, the double pull right, run it left, and I'm going to give a shout-out to Castle. Castle had a really, really nice block. I wish he would have let go. He wanted to dump Buddy so bad, and I get it as
someone who got called for a ticky-tack holding a couple games ago, I get it. Castle's like,
I
wouldn't do it either, bud.
Well, I was going to say I get it as a former player, but that sounds really tough of me because I didn't play at Tennessee or at that level, but it's like as a former competitor, you're like, it's the biggest game of the year. I want to dump this loser. And so Castle didn't get called for it, but it was a great block. I just wish you either would have dumped him or let him go. But like I said, he didn't get called for it. And I loved what he did with Squirrel and Caleb. Now, I don't know if he tells them this because it's their receivers, but it's like, hey, we trust Castle to get hands on someone early and make a good block because he's a big boy and he's a tight end. You little receivers over here. So what he told, instead of Squirrel coming off and engaging immediately, he said, act like you're trying to get a release. Then engage on your blocks when it's about 8 yards downfield. Yeah. And I'm like, I loved it because if I'm a DB and Squirrel White comes off the ball and he immediately puts on hands on me to like he's going to block, I won.
Yeah,
I won because I'm going to take him and I'm going to disengage and I'm waiting there for Dylan running, but he didn't. If I'm sitting there and Squirrel gives me a little shake, I'm like, oh, like I got, and then he opens up. I'm kind of turning with him.
And
then,
that's kind of a trick of a trade of a smaller guy like Squirrel is. Like, you got to trick them into blocking. Like, you're going to get pushed around. You're too light and not strong enough to go up against like normal size DBs. You got to trick them a little bit. Everybody's got to do it. I had to trick defensive ends all the time because they're more athletic and faster and longer arms than I had.
Better looking. Oh, sorry. So then on that one, you got a high throw. It's a little bit high, and I love what Huepel did there. He said, you know what, our best player, Squirrel White, we give him a lot of field. Let's run him a slant in here. Ball's a little high. I would hope that he makes that catch to help his quarterback out. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but it's a high throw and it's a missed catch, so it's both.
Yeah, play before that, Dylan Sampson, I think he missed a cutback for a first down, which it's like, listen, we got 2 blockers in front of Dylan with some guys chasing him, and he could have got a first down. And if he does get a first down, then we have 3 more downs to do something. That is a minute that is taken away from Georgia. That is more opportunity for us to score, less opportunity for them to score. Like, these things matter. Everything freaking matters. Like, if you have the opportunity to get a first down on second, do it. Do not force yourself into a third, and then your next guy that you hope steps up drops the ball.
Yeah.
Dylan Sampson gets that first down. That play to Squirrel never happens and never matters. So it's just like you miss little opportunities by not executing to the highest potential of that play. That's what happens. We have to punt. Our offense is off the field. Oh, it's just very frustrating when I watch, and when I rewatch, I get so pissed because I just watch a guy go, I'll run out of bounds. Whoops, I dropped it. Dang it, I got swim moved. Like, please just win. Just win your one-on-one matchup. Please, for the love of God. Okay, so next drive. We got getting Squirrel in space with the ball again. More inventive ways to get him the ball. He is an athlete. He is a playmaker. Let's keep doing it. Everyone loves Squirrel for that reason. I like it too. How can we get him the ball and get him in space? Get a little sweep going. I love it. So good gain on that. Jeremiah gets beat across his face by a 3 technique. Gets into the backfield. He face masks on Dylan Sampson. Dylan does a very good job of fighting for extra yards. That block is one of the hardest that you can do at a tackle position. You are already beat by your alignment, and then you have to try and cut him off from going that way. There are different ways to skin that cat. There are maybe a little bump help from your center coming back. There is maybe you read that 3 technique that is trying to play that like he is. There's just different stuff that you can do with it. Obviously, hey, we're going fast. We're in this scenario. He's the 3 tech. Jeremiah, do your best. Try and get across his face. Hopefully he doesn't react and notice that, hey, this guard is leaving. I'm going to go and pinch. But, he's probably a 5-star defensive tackle. So he probably knew exactly what was happening. And was able to get in the backfield. And then a face mask that doesn't get called. We're into another 3rd down. And no one gets open. So Joe dumps the ball off. But also, I'm not sure all the time what the routes are because they just run out of screen. And I'm like, I don't know what he's running versus what defense. All I can see is the line of scrimmage. It just ticks me off. But then tries to dump off, doesn't get completed, and we lined up wrong anyways. So we wouldn't have got a first down, no matter. And I'm just sitting there like, what can we do here, people? What do you want all of us to do about a dumb pre-snap penalty? that is reiterated to you every practice, every film study, every time you walk up to the line, you point at the ref. Go watch it. Go watch the tape. Every single time the end man points at the ref, every single time. He never doesn't do it. But now this time, we just didn't confirm, and it's a penalty. I'm going to yell at him as a coach, but it's like, I've already told him 100 times. It's part of his pre-alignment routine. But we didn't catch it. Help me help you. Help me help you.
That's where those coaches blow a gasket sometimes, because it's
yeah, that's why you see coaches throwing shit up in the booth and slamming their headsets on the ground, because they're like, I've told that guy 50 times to freaking get his head across when he's trying to make a block, and he hasn't done it fucking once.
That's
and then
like,
you're like, but the guy behind him is a sack of shit, and he can't even tie his shoes right. So what am I supposed to do?
That's like if any parents are listening or watching and they have some youngsters. They as kids, they tell us a million times, and we still don't listen and still do stupid stuff.
Yeah, constantly. Okay. So let's see. This is drive going into halftime. And up to this point, honestly, Reed, I can say this offensive line has had pretty good pass pro. Like, there has not been pressure on Joe. When he is throwing, he has time. And that's saying a lot for a line with both their tackles missing. That's saying a lot. So I thought they did a good job. And I thought it continued through the second half. Even when Dane went down, I still thought, I was like, okay, they're really not doing too bad versus, what is considered probably one of the better D lines in the country.
Right.
So I like that. I like Caleb Webb involved, little comeback completion. I like that. I think the runs on second and on third down tell you how Huepel views his offense with Joe Milton at quarterback. There is enough time on the clock for him, if he were to get a first down, to call a timeout and to kick a field goal. And that is way more important to him than being in a long down, than trying to get Joe to throw a ball downfield and the risk that we're in a second and long, that we're in a third and long. The field goal is worth more than that risk is, and that risk is higher. So he's going to run the ball. I mean, that is a calculated decision.
Yeah, and there's a couple. I'm rewatching it here on the iPad, just a few little things, and I agree with you. I'm glad you brought that up about the offensive line. When we take the deep shot to Ramel's got a step and a half maybe on the guy, and Joe, it's almost like Joe is like, I can't overthrow this guy, so let me just throw a punt up. And it's like,
make it 50-50.
Right. Compared to like, a good quarterback is going to just, I got a guy with a step or two. Like, okay, I'm going to throw it. He's going to catch it in stride, and he's either going to run it out for a tutty, or if the guy's faster than him or as fast, and he might catches him, but it's still a big game. But he just chucks it up, and it's a really tough 50-50 catch for Ramel, and the guy that he's jumping with is probably a just as good athlete or football player as he in. And then there's the one that's a little bit later too, is he does it to Squirrel. And, I mean, if you want to argue that, Squirrel technically had a chance. Yeah, he technically had a chance, but he's not a jump ball guy. It was kind of like the South Carolina throw where Joe just heaves it. And luckily Squirrel was able to really catch it low, but unfortunately this time he wasn't. And I just was there with my dad just laughing. I was like, it's just like he just chucks it up for, 500 mystery box.
Yeah. Jackpot.
Yeah, because it's like he can't, he's just so worried about overthrowing it. But the one that bothered me when you're talking about this of like, hey, I got to just run it, see what I can do, try to get some points here. He's doing everything he can to keep the game in front of him.
Yeah.
Huepel, that is. And the play where they got like 4 guys rushing, maybe 5, and the rest are right at the goal line. And Joe just says hike and just sails it. I don't call me crazy, Kyler, but if I see that, I'm not throwing it immediately, but I'm throwing it pretty quick to, like, I guess if he was throwing that it was someone taller, so I don't know if it was Ramel or Caleb Webb. But if I'm doing that, I'm hitting my boy. Like, if I see that pre-snap and I can tell him, I'm like, back shoulder's coming. I'm going to let you get about 10, 12, 15, and I'm hitting this on your back shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can't tell him that, then when he's running off the line, that's where this ball's coming, and it's going to be up to him to – hey, if the guy's standing here, if I put one on your back shoulder, you're going to catch it and get right out of bounds, or you're going to catch it and have a chance to spin and maybe try to make something happen. Because if you go back and look at that, like, there's a world that exists where you can complete that.
It's a jump ball.
Well, what's that?
I mean, it's like a back shoulder jump ball.
No. I'm not saying. Well, yes. No. I'm saying yes. Obviously you can jump ball it where it's 1v1, but Joe doesn't give him that opportunity. I'm saying there's a world where you have a good quarterback and good receiver, and they're like, I'm hitting you on a back shoulder, and you're going to catch it about the 5-yard line, and we either have a really, really chip shot field goal, or I'm going to hit you, and you're going to be able to make that one guy miss. Because when you're spread out that way, Georgia's going to be able to get 2 to you, maybe 3. But just go back and watch it. Just go back and watch it and see, like, okay, if Joe puts this on him about the 10 marker, it's 1v1, 1v2, and you got momentum and you got a chance to – you see what I'm saying? And it's like, no, he just sells it. It's because
now you're sitting there as an offensive coordinator. You got this play. You got 7, 8 seconds. You know you need to get down. You know you have a field goal in your back pocket. And defensive lines up like that. And Joe Milton is your quarterback. What do you say to him? Because what I would say is, hey, if they're lined up like that, throw it away. Because we got a field goal in our back pocket. That's what I would say.
And honestly, that's what they told him, and that's what he did, because he just air mounted. He didn't even let him do a jump ball. He didn't let him sell it.
It was already decided before that play was even ran.
Yeah.
Okay, in second half, I towards the end of the game, I did like the fact that the guys kept fighting. I mentioned that. But just some of the plays, Joe misses Squirrel on that lob. He tries to lob it over. Squirrel is open. He is open. So
the deep, he starts over on the right side, comes up, puts that one. It's like he's going to do a crosser, and then he puts a move on the safety, gets behind him. Yeah,
exactly.
At that time, if he scores that, it's a one-possession game, because I think that makes it 17-24.
Yeah. And Jacob Worm was also just sitting at the first down line like this, wide open. Just like, hey, I'm here. Throw it to me. No biggie. So, if there's a different quarterback in there, that might be a different result. Let's see. Next drive, good run by Jalen. Finally getting back in the game. I don't know where he went. And, I'm going to go ahead and get ahead of the take that a player does not get enough touches when Jalen Wright was our RB1, and 3-4 games ago, everybody was saying Dylan Sampson should be getting all the touches, right? Now, Jalen Wright's not getting any touches. Everybody goes, well, why isn't Jalen getting all the touches? I'm just like, there's one ball, guys. There's one ball. I don't know who you want to have it, but there's only one ball. Okay? Enough with this guy doesn't get enough touches. We didn't get it to him enough.
Well,
unless Bijan Robinson is on your team, unless Marvin Harrison Jr. is on your team, don't say that.
Well, the thing about the touches is one guy did get a touch and he house called it. So that kind of messes up the average.
Yeah, exactly. But good to see him back in there. Chase on a little comeback, fighting for extra yards, trying. And then this is the drive. Spraggs gets hurt, and it kind of falls apart from there. We've learned that Spraggs is out. And I don't know what happens with Spraggs. I don't know if he decides to come back. He definitely could. I don't know what his draft stock looks like. I don't know if he's seen as like a mid-round guy, because if he's seen as a late round / free agent, Buddy should come back.
I think
that is a hard life to try and make a team while also recovering from an injury.
I might be slightly worried that. Yeah, I do not see Javonte Spraggins as an NFL player. Now, right now, I think I love his mentality. I love how physical he can be. I just think there's some spots as a technician wise and still getting beat and over aggressive. I think that would get him pretty worked in the NFL. You're the offensive lineman. I don't know what you think. I'm just saying I don't necessarily see him as that right now. Now, does that mean that he couldn't get drafted, go to camp, be somewhere for a couple of years, and continue progressing as a football player? No, that doesn't mean that at all. He could absolutely do that and absolutely go play in the NFL. So I don't want that to sound like I'm knocking him that, he has no chance at the next level. I'm worried about when you get individuals who are maybe a leader on the team, who are probably one of your better players, and they have a chance to go or come back, and they're saying, hey, I might need a little bit more on the NIL front.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I could go be a 5th, 6th rounder, but they're like, well, if I stay, maybe I can say, hey, I need this. And the coaches are like, yeah, I bet you could use that, but you're not really worth it.
Yeah.
Player, or even if you are a decent player, we got to put these funds in other important places. No offense, but a guard isn't the first place that you go when you're building a team.
No.
And so
that's why the dignified spots on a Canadian football team, you have to have 7 Canadians play. You have to have 7 Canadians start, and the interior offensive lineman is always Canadians. Guard, center, guard. Every other position is Americans on the offense, because they're like, I know that I can get a better American tackle. I know that I can get a better American quarterback.
Yeah. It's also where you see what people get paid in the NFL. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't some guards and centers that break the bank. No, not at all. That's not the case. You got guys that are all pro and going to be Hall of Famers and really, really good players that get the bank. But when you're, there's a piece of that, and it's kind of like the rumblings, which I don't know if they were true or not, where Tyler Barron was like, deuces, I'm out. I'm about to go get absolutely paid by Kentucky or whatever the rumors were that we heard. And then he ends up back. It's like, Tennessee might have said, hey, like, we can't pay you that. So if that's what you can get, see ya. Well, he came back because maybe he was bluffing, but there's going to be that in this,
new world.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I still get confused. I say it all the time. I get confused with the COVID years, but there's still a lot of players that could potentially come back on this team. Last thing I'll say offensively, I've been happy with Chaz Nimrod, man. That's exactly who I thought he would be coming out. I remember watching his highlight film and was really pumped about him because I said, this guy just seems like a pro. He runs all the right routes in high school. He used his hands well. He was never going to be overly fast or overly quick or catch it and scat back and make 1,000 people miss, but he was just always really solid. For him to already be doing that as a true sophomore, I think the guy has a nice little future ahead of him. You can find a place if you catch what's thrown to you, maybe make one guy miss and give good effort blocking. But anyways, let's go to defense.
Let's go to defense. I think one more thing to shout out: 4th and 8, we did under center, or 4th down, we did under center. That was fantastic. And handed the ball off. I absolutely love it. Okay, defensively. So you mentioned the offensive line earlier, and what they did and how well they played. I think like second play. It was a 2nd and 6, and their offensive line, I mean, it was 3-4 yards back that they were just pushing dudes. And I was like, oh man, that's not what we want. That's oh crap, their offensive line is very good. It's not a good sign, let's say that, for what was going to happen later. And then you start to see guys getting beat. I mean, just beat. Gabe Jeudy-Lally gets beat on a crossing route. He cannot keep up with Buddy, and it goes to a first down. Brock Bowers catches a slant on a 3rd and 8. Just beats his dude, catches a slant. We're running a bunch of man coverage. We're keeping things in front of us. They force a field goal. They force a field goal on the first drive. I mean, how ecstatic is that? I am pumped. Thank you, defense. Way to force a field goal. Give our offense the ball again. We just scored a touchdown. Let's go do it again. They did what they're supposed to do. I keep coming back to the end result. It does not matter if you give up a bunch of yards, if you only give up 3 points, or you give up 0 points. Who cares if you gave up 99 yards? I don't. I don't at all. I don't care if you give up 42 points to Alabama because we scored 51. You know what I mean?
52, I think. 52-49.
Whatever. We scored 52.
Were you supposed to change my guy to your guy?
No.
Okay, just curious.
No.
Okay.
My guy versus your guy.
So, defense.
That's what you meant.
Yeah, what'd you think I meant?
I thought you meant like I was supposed to switch the words. I was like, no, it's fine. My guy versus your guy is fine. Doesn't need to be your guy versus my guy. Don't come at me like that.
Yeah, I got you. Even with how good their offensive line was and how it started wearing, I was just watching again on the iPad, and I think there's like 3-4 minutes before halftime. Starting to see where we're missing tackles now, where it's instead of what we were doing those first couple drives and possessions, we were making tackles and wrapping up. Now we're diving. There's guys running free. I mean, Tim brings the blitz. He does what he does. Georgia knows it, and I love what Georgia does. They go to their best player, and it was their best matchup because their best player is Brock Bowers. They're going to run a slant to him, and they're fortunate that it was their best matchup because we had him on a walk-on. So you have the best tight end, one of the best players in college football versus a walk-on. It is what it is. Now, you could say, hey, Tim, we got to get somebody else in there. I'm going to assume that Tim Banks and Willie Martinez and those guys are playing who they think is the best player at the time. If you've got Wesley Walker, Tamarion McDonald, Kamal Haddon, Brandon Turnage or Warren Burrell, like if some of those guys are missing and then some of them are available, but you think Will Brooks is better, I got to trust that. But Georgia's smart, man. They're smart. But even saying all that, you already said it. We held them to a field goal. That's a win.
That's a win.
So then you go, and it's a great defensive play, man. This is a fantastic football play. Seeing Andre Turrentine come up and make that is a dog-ass tackle and play. He sees it, he shoot. I love it because I watched it and he sees it and he's like, oh yeah, it's coming. I'm gonna shoot my gap or shoot it quick. He shoots it quick. He gets a little baby hesitation to make sure he's lined up, and then when he's lined up, he's got his outside contain. He shoots it and just great tackle. He gets up, fired up. I love that. And it's nice. Yeah. It's like, hey, you're a young guy. We haven't forgot about you. You're still going to have your chance to play here.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to say it was him. It may have been him, but unfortunately, they used our aggression against us with the double pass. And it's like, okay, Georgia touche. Like, I didn't think you'd have to pull out somewhat of a trick, but you did. And kudos because it worked out perfectly well. They know how aggressive we can be.
Yeah. On that drive, there was a time where my eye kept going to Elijah Herring and kind of saying, like, what are you doing on the play? What are you affecting on the play? Because, like, as an offensive lineman, there's always a coaching point of, like, If you're not hitting somebody, you're a waste. You are being wasted on the field. What are you doing? So if you're in pass pro and everybody else is locked on a guy and you just stand there, it's like, why the hell are you even in there? Go find somebody. That's kind of how I felt about Elijah on Saturday. It was just like, buddy, go find something to do. I feel like you're backing up in the zone and then just kind of like just standing there, like letting the other guys figure out the crossing routes. Let them do what they did, like not affecting anybody running by, not dropping back far enough what he needs to. And you tell me, like, as a defensive guy, like, what are you thinking when you're like that middle zone player? What are you thinking when you've got two guys to your side and you have a zone and there's only two guys over there, running backs on the opposite side? Most likely he's going to run into the flat over there. If you have a crossing route, it's going to be late. Why aren't you looking at Brock Bowers and being like, he's their favorite third down target. It's 3rd and 5. I better watch where he's going.
Yeah,
what is the coaching point from a linebacker's perspective? Like, are you really just staring down the quarterback? You're not even looking at where guys could be running routes.
I can't say for sure what Tim and what the linebackers coach is telling them. I can just tell what I've been told or what I've heard and what are the experiences I've had. If you are really a middle zone, you would think that there is some gamesmanship in there. I used to love if I got to be middle zone. It's like you truly aren't back out of the backfield. You truly aren't a quarterback spy.
Mm-hmm.
You just have your zone. I would always love to try to bait people. I absolutely was. Hey, if I'm watching 2 here or 3, and 3, so they could have wide receiver, tight end, or they could have 3 wide receivers, or maybe they just have 2 receivers. Like if number 2 or number 3 goes out, you probably pretty damn well sure that you're going to have another one coming in. There's not a ton of – there's 53 yards on a football field. Like, let's be smart here. If one's coming in, there's another going out. If one's going out, you know what I mean? And you're right. If they're going out, or going deep or going out, like I might have a crosser. So there very much is some of that. Let me find someone here. If I drop in my zone and I'm like, yeah, let me key on Brock here because he's the tight end. He's the closest inside to me. If he doesn't cross my face or starts kind of running at me and I kind of turn to get a little run with him, if he doesn't do those 2 things and he goes out, well, then I need to find out who's coming in or who's coming. Like I'm not going to blame him completely and act like he needs to be Luke Kuechly or Brian Urlacher or Ray Lewis or Fred Warner or one of these guys who's just cerebral and knows everything. And there's going to be some times where you look bad. It's just where it's not his fault that the ball's getting thrown over his head and the quarterback's fitting it in a gap between the linebacker and the safety. I mean, that's football. But if there's a common theme where you're just kind of in space and you're not really doing much, you got to figure something out. And that's either whether it's – and he's still a young guy, but whether that's a coach that's got to say something to him or film, it's like you get – find work. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So, no, there's definitely some of that to where let's – just because you have middle zone and they don't complete it in the middle zone doesn't mean that you couldn't have done more to help out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I got Gabe Judy Lally running for dear life trying to keep up a wide receiver, and I'm like, Elijah, just give him a little freaking nudge as he's coming across shallow under 5 yards. Like, do something to help your buddy out.
I'm glad I want to tie something up real quick here that people are upset about Tim Banks. I thought the guy he would try to run some zone. He would try to blitz. He'd try to run man. And every time he did something, they had an answer. If he ran man, Mike Bobo was running pick plays and was running shallows and just stuff that's really difficult
or
to
just seam routes, and Bell was faster than our guy.
Sure. And then he would run zone, and we would be there and maybe have a couple stops in zone, but then they would complete it. sometimes if you don't have the better players and they are dictating to you, you're in trouble. And so I give him credit for trying different stuff. He wasn't just sitting there in man and man and man, and they just kept picking it apart, or he wasn't just in zone and they kept picking apart. He was trying to do different stuff. He was trying to blitz. He was trying to disguise. Unfortunately, Georgia's really good, and they picked stuff up. Carson Beck made some good throws. Their players made some good catches. I mean, there was a third down. Once again, Danico was in great coverage, and the guy went up and mossed him on the sideline. Great catch. Great catch.
Yeah, great catch. Great throw. Like that, I can't blame Danico. He was all over him.
All over him. Now, I'll say, nice there to continue on some of the plays. Nice. There was a couple. I mean,
and I'll tell you what about that halfback pass. Hey, we weren't going to let up that outside zone run. We weren't going to let up that outside run. I'll tell you that much.
No, yeah, but this is where you got to do your job, my man Belichick. Do your job.
Mm-hmm.
But, whoever is in that man coverage or whoever's in that zone, I get it. You got to trust your other guys to stop the outside zone. And once you've done your job, then you can go help that. So it's like, I hear you, Kyler, but I disagree. You can't just let someone sleepwalk into the end zone.
No, I know. Safety came flying.
It was turn time, but I don't know if it was him on that side or whatever.
Yeah, well, what do you know? A guy who's not played that much this year messes up. Surprise.
Yeah, and after you get a big hit like that in your belly, you're ready for more.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm gonna bring another one.
Yeah, you're feeling yourself, and then when you start feeling yourself and getting a little anxious and a little cocky, then that's what those coaches do, just whoop right over. Defensively, there were still some nice flashes by players. I thought Amari Thomas had some nice flashes. Omar Norman Lott.
The next drive, we had an interception that got called back. But
yeah, I see why they called it. I'm a big fan.
I see why they called it. I don't see why they didn't call it on Buddy on 4th and goal at the end of the game when he's holding on to Chaz Nimrod. Just be consistent. If you're going to let the boys play, then let them play. If you're going to call it ticky-tack, then call it ticky-tack. Don't bounce.
I don't disagree. And Gary was on our side on that one, but the game's over by that point. So
still.
No, right. You're right. I'm just saying I don't care about it because the
if
game.
You don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah, hate not having that pick. I feel like that could have been a huge game changer. I do see why they called it. Then you still got James Pierce, man, making plays. You got Tyler getting back there, Roman back there. Nice tackle by Danico. Guess what? We didn't get the pick, but we held him to a punt on that one. My defenses held him to 3. Then we gave up a touchdown, but then we got the ball back to our offense. There was plenty. It's like you said, there's all that butterfly effect. It all goes in. Some of the same reasons we routed teams years ago was because our offense jumped on them. It changed how they played, and our defense pinned those ears back and ate. Then there was other times like last year where it's a dogfight back and forth with Alabama, and they complement each other. Mm-hmm. Offense maybe shoots themselves in the foot. Defense gets a stop. Defense then gives up something, but offense bounces back. It's a team effort, and unfortunately, 2 weeks in a row, the offense has not helped the defense out. And then the defense just got worn out, man. Like I said, I never thought that they weren't giving effort, but when you start getting beat down a little bit and you're doing everything you can, and that's where, unfortunately, your fundamentals go. And instead of coming in and having, guys coming this way, Kyler, on me, so he's coming and keeping my head across his face and wrapping up, my head's not across, and I try to shoulder him, and he bounces.
And then he breaks the tackle.
Right. And there was plenty of break tackles where I saw, like, on that drive before half where they go up 24-7 before we go get the field goal. But it's, Aaron Beasley misses one. That's our best defensive player probably on the field.
Misses the tackle right on the running back in the hole, and you're like,
yep.
I wouldn't have drawn it any. Like, that's who exactly I would want to meet in the hole.
Yeah.
On a third down too. It's
and then you got DBs diving at people's legs, like I said, instead of wrapping up. And Georgia's just a machine, man. They did a really, really good job executing. And the second that you don't execute, that's where it comes back to hurt you. Continue. You go ahead and finish up with some of the stuff that you have defensively.
Yeah, I had that Beasley. I thought their little quarterback boot with a screen throwback to Bell is a great play. Like, I love that play. I just watching that as an offense, I was like, oh, that fucks up a defense. So I love that. I again just watching Elijah on this drive was just like, I don't know what you're doing. We get a 3rd and 6, and he just dumps it to the running back who gets a 12-yard gain. I'm like, where's the reaction time, Elijah? Click, click, click. The next drive, Bell, this is the one he makes a play. That he makes play on Danico. And I just thought, I go, okay, I just saw him make that play. Who in our wide receiver / tight end core in this game could make that play? And I don't see it. I don't see them being able to make that kind of play like he did.
That's a good point, and I don't want that to come off as negative. I think going into the year, I said I could probably see Ramel make that. I would have hoped Dante would have made that, what I had seen on film. I'm not thinking Dante makes that, but I'm sitting here thinking I hope Ramel.
Brew does.
Yeah. Going into the season, I'm like, I hope Ramel can. I would hope Dante could. Squirrel has the potential, but that's a lot to ask for his size. So really, we're looking at one guy, and has a broken leg.
Yeah. So he makes that play. Then there's an outside run that ends up getting like 15 yards, and all I see is the 2 scraping linebackers meeting the offensive tackle and number 4, the tight end, are Will Brooks and T-Lander, and I'm like, it ain't gonna happen, buddy. Like, you got to walk on in a freshman going against probably 2 4 or 5 stars, and they're blocking. They got angles. It ain't gonna happen. No, you ain't gonna make that tackle.
I mean, bro, I thought Will Brooks and T-Lander and a lot of the other guys brought it, man. Like, they brought it and they played the best that they could. It's just, it's unfortunate. It's like you going up against me. You just lose every time. There's nothing to do about it.
Nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do.
No.
They end up scoring on that drive, man coverage. They run some like pick routes. Brock Bowers in the flat. I still think it was like pretty good reaction time by Jalen, and it's just couldn't get there in time.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel like he hesitated at all.
No, he didn't. No.
Yeah. Let's see. They run an end around, and I got Will Brooks as my last line of defense on that side. He gets blocked. This is after halftime. Bell beats Danico on like a slant / seam. It's one-on-one coverage. Your guy versus my guy. Who wins? He was beating everybody on our defense. And then just man coverage again down near the goal line, crossing routes. Wide open. Beck rolls out of the pocket a little bit, just dumps it to him. Wide open for a touchdown. Let's see. Man, I just got, I got Caleb Perry getting beat on rub and a man. I got Brandon Turnage getting beat. I got Elijah dropping into coverage when it's an inside zone play and takes himself out of it, and it runs for a touchdown. What are we doing here, man? Why are we backing up? What's going on? That is your gap. That touchdown was scored through your gap. I don't know who taught you to take a step backwards when an offensive lineman's coming up to block you, but that ain't what you're supposed to do.
Eyes are, I'm assuming, are not in the right place.
Yeah, I'm assuming so. So yeah, it was just like I put in the description, like my guy versus your guy. I saw a lot of Georgia win one-on-one matchups. That's what I saw. And I don't know how much technique and individual drills really affect that. So as for expectations, I think we touched on it in the beginning, but setting your expectations of what this team is and what it was when we started the season, and having realistic ones. Moving forward, expectations are we beat the shit out of Vanderbilt. I want to absolutely throttle them in the first half and get a whole half of Nico playing. That's what I want. I want Joe to think that he is an NFL quarterback and sit out the bowl game, and Nico gets to play all of it. I don't think Nico playing the second half with 3 offensive linemen out versus the number 1 team in the nation is necessarily really important for his growth. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't think that is going to make the difference on whether he's a good quarterback or not a good quarterback. I think it could make the difference in whether he's fucking hurt or not with both tackles out and starting guard out. But I don't think it makes it that much of a difference. But if we have an opportunity to get Nico more reps, then I like it.
Yeah, man, that'd be great if Joe tried to sit out the bowl game, but he's not going to sit out the bowl game, and it's been a whole season, so I don't see Coach Huepel putting him on the bench for the young guy. They both seem like we're going to finish this thing out. We're going to finish what we started. Joe's going to be out there against some middle, kind of like us, some 8-win, 9-win team, and he's going to be doing his and blowing stuff and going to try to end it the right way and all that.
Yeah, versus NC State in the Gator Bowl, and he's going to be, running over a 210 linebacker and doing a little Superman and talking shit. Probably get a damn 15-yard penalty.
I'm not
drive.
Not like trying to I shouldn't be making fun of him, but I just it's over. Like it's over for him. He had his opportunity. It is what it is, and
I'm sorry, bud. I was rooting for you. Sucks that you couldn't take advantage of your opportunity at Michigan, couldn't take advantage of your opportunity at Tennessee. You're probably not going to play football again. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you.
It happens.
It sucks. It really does. Whenever you have to hang up those cleats, it's a shitty feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. But he, Coach Huepel gave him a great opportunity. He had, 12 games, he'd probably get 13, and that's all she wrote. He's fortunate. He's fortunate that the NIL was around. Because not because of him, but because being the quarterback at the University of Tennessee, he was able to capitalize on that. So he made, I don't know exactly what he made, but let me say this. Anything that he did make was more than he ever would have and maybe should have. So be thankful for that. So, anyways, good pod. I hate losing, but it is what it is, man.
And thankful for all of you guys out there. Happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate all your support. Appreciate Vol Nation. Can't say any better. All right, brother. See ya. Okay. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you are watching, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, leave a comment. We'd love to hear the comments or read the comments. Shouldn't say hear them. If you're just listening, rate and review, download and re-download on all those listening platforms, and follow us on those listening platforms. It helps so much. Also follow us on social media at Pancakes and Bacon for our main account on Twitter, at Pancakes and Bacon _RTI on Instagram. If you want to follow Reed, it is just at rbacon26 on Twitter for him. And then myself is just at Kyler Kerbyson on all social medias. So check me out there. And again, just thank you guys so much for being supportive fans. It's not the season we wanted, but we're going to be all right. We're still going to be a pretty good team. We are not back to the 5-7 woes of 4-8. I mean, honestly, you think about it. So let's enjoy what we got. I love Huepel. I love where this team is, this culture. We're going to be okay. So as always, go Vols.